And from the Workers Credit Union studios at Fitchburg Access Television, welcome again to North Central Journal. I'm Scott May. And joining us for this show, this segment of the Journal, Roy Nascimento, who many of you recognize is the president and CEO of the North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce. Roy, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
It's been such a short time.
I know.
And also Leanne Scales, the Vice President of Enrollment and Public Affairs at Mount Wachusett Community College. Leanne,
nice to be here.
Nice to have you with us. And we were just kind of reminiscing about friends that we have in common from the Mount and years spent up there, and it's great to have you with us for this segment of the Journal. We're not going to be talking so much about the Chamber of Commerce, although it is kind of integral to the conversation nonetheless. But we want to talk about Elect North Central Massachusetts, which was something new to me. How long has Elect North Central Massachusetts been with us, and what is the mission?
So it really started, you know, when you say pre-pandemic, that's how we talk about all things, right?
That's right.
So before the pandemic, at the last congressional race, a group of leaders in the region, really convened and brought together by Roy, decided that we wanted to make sure that our region was represented and on the map when folks were talking about statewide elective office, because we're all aware that sometimes candidates debate all across our great Commonwealth. And there are some issues that are unique to North Central Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. We think it's important that all the people of North Central have a voice in that elective process. So our first race out of the gate was to make sure that we hosted right here in our backyard a candidates debate for that congressional seat that is now held by Congresswoman Trahan.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you describe the membership of the Elect North Central Coalition? It's a group. It's made up of a number of different businesses and
well, not businesses per se,
yeah,
but different organizations here in North Central Massachusetts. Organizations like the Chamber that have a regional focus, but it's really a very broad membership. I think we have about 30 members currently that are part of the coalition, but organizations that I like to describe as kind of institutions here in North Central Massachusetts. So groups like the Chamber, the community college, Mount Wachusett Community College, Fitchburg State University, organizations like the Minority Coalition are part of it, as well as a really terrific list of media that we have here in North Central Massachusetts. Pretty much every major media institution, including FATV, thank you very much, is a member of the coalition, and we're all committed and all working together towards this mission of making sure that North Central Massachusetts isn't forgotten.
So let's expand on that. What is the role of these members of the coalition?
Well, for example, when you have a candidates debate, you have to decide what questions to ask them. And if you asked Roy, he would talk about economic development and business development. If you asked me, I would be talking about access to higher education. But it's important to have people like the United Way at the table to talk about, you know, social justice and poverty issues. It's important to have the Spanish American Center. It's important to have folks from all across, not only for us to develop questions to ask the candidates, but to inform what the Elect North Central body is trying to do, which is raise awareness about what is our civic engagement life. We all have jobs and we all have business that we're trying to move forward, but we all also are citizens living in this region and trying to work with our elected officials. So we want to make sure that everyone is participating, not just on debate night, but throughout our daily lives, to make sure that we are carrying forward a civic mission for the region.
What is the reason specifically for kind of calling attention to North Central Massachusetts among those that are running for political office in the state?
So I can take that.
So bring them here.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that we bring them here. You know, we want to make sure that they don't forget about North Central Massachusetts. You know, that civic engagement is really important that Leanne talked about. But there's also a regional equity component to this. You know, we want to make sure that North Central Massachusetts doesn't get forgotten by these statewide candidates or federal candidates for these important positions. And you know, they'll participate in debates and forums. But not always in North Central Massachusetts. So we want to, as a coalition, we all have quite a bit of influence when we work together, and we want to make sure that they're coming out here, talking to voters out here, talking to different community groups, you know, and we all have similar challenges to other parts of the state, but we also have some unique challenges, and we're different than other parts of the state. So we want to make sure that we get that across to these candidates.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that the regions of the state, and it's, from east to west, there are unique issues and problems in each of those regions.
Absolutely.
And it's important, I would assume, that these candidates realize what those differences might be too.
Absolutely.
And how to address those. How has been the reaction from candidates that you've reached out to maybe come out to North Central Massachusetts to participate in some of the things that you're hoping they will participate in, like debates? What has the reaction been?
It's been good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, our first debate, when we first launched it, we had the candidates there, which was a great advantage, and thanks to our friends at Fitchburg State that hosted it. And right now, we are in conversations with the candidates as we speak, so we're engaged with them. They know we're here, and we're just working with busy schedules for the candidates right now. But the response has been very good, and from the community, it's been great. I mean, I can speak for my campus. I know the students and the faculty appreciate that their voices are heard via the questions. We ask all of the community partners in Elect North Central to don't just talk about it in your boardrooms, talk to the folks throughout your organization about what topics we need to talk about. And the last debate we held was really well attended. And so we felt that the community, through the support of our media partners, even more people who maybe weren't necessarily there that evening for the debate, got to read about it, got to hear about it. And I don't want to undersell how important that media component is, because people are busy and there might be a soccer game or an important work event and you can't be there for the debate. So the fact that folks like FATV are ready to share this news before, during, and after, so that folks know more about their elected officials is really important. That's going extraordinarily well.
Now, are there other forms of interaction that residents here in North Central Massachusetts can look forward to with candidates that are out here, other than just a debate? Are there other things planned?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So under the umbrella of the Chamber, this isn't Elect North Central per se, but it runs parallel to our efforts around Elect North Central and organizing the debates. But we've launched a new podcast series, an election series under our Inside North Central Massachusetts podcast series. And we've invited all of the candidates running for all of the open statewide offices to participate in these and being interviewed for the podcast series. So that includes all of the gubernatorial candidates, the lieutenant governor candidates, the state auditor candidates, and the attorney general office as well. So, and most of those candidates have taken us up on that offer, and we've interviewed most of them, and many of those are already featured on the podcasts, and we're still working to finalize the schedules with a few others, but we're pretty confident that we'll engage all of them, and we think this is a great opportunity to let North Central Massachusetts, the voters, the citizens, and the businesses here in North Central Massachusetts know about these candidates and let them know about their agenda, and more importantly, through the questions we ask, inform them and engage them about the issues that are important to us.
I was going to ask you about what topics the podcasts generally focus on. Is it the same for each candidate, or does it vary?
The questions are very similar. To be fair, we keep the questions consistent for each of the candidates for each office. However, they vary by office, but the questions are really very North Central Massachusetts focused. So we do have some questions where we ask to have listeners get to know the candidates, a little bit about their agenda and why they're interested in running for this important position. But then we dive in and we do ask them questions that are important to us here. And for us at the Chamber, it's typically business issues or around economic development. Mm-hmm. So we want to get a sense of how they expect to grow the state economy and how they, specifically North Central Massachusetts.
Now, I'll put you on the spot, but what do you have coming up on the podcast series? What are some of the candidates that we can look forward to seeing?
Let me take a look here.
I know you have a list.
I've got a list here, and there's a lot. So we've already interviewed Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, Chris Doty, who's another candidate for governor, On the lieutenant governor race, we've interviewed pretty much all of the candidates there, and many of those are already available on our website. For attorney general, we've got Quentin Palfrey that we've interviewed, and Shannon Liss Reardon, who's a candidate. Her episode will be posted tomorrow, so that's the upcoming episode. But we're releasing these episodes periodically. And then for state auditor, we've interviewed all of the state auditor candidates. Anthony Amori was the most recent one that was just posted yesterday, so that's available for listeners to download. So we're excited. Again, we've interviewed most of the candidates, and we're actively working to schedule the remaining candidates and get those recorded and up on the air for listeners. And we hope this will help inform the process and help voters in making a decision with so many important races that are open. And just a reminder, the podcast is available on our website, northcentralmass.com, northcentralmass.com, a little plug for the Chamber's website. Also available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And the primary election is Tuesday, September 6th, and the general election is Tuesday, November 8th.
And there's a number of candidates running for all these different offices, so it's kind of important for voters to get familiar with these candidates, and this is a good way for them to be introduced to the different candidates for these different offices. Kind of make a choice after you get to know someone, at least through an interview or an appearance somewhere.
Yeah, it's a unique year where we're seeing a lot of turnover with some of these major statewide offices. Now, how
including
often,
governor.
including governor,
Yeah.
Governor, lieutenant governor,
Yeah.
AG,
Yeah.
attorney general. So there's a lot of big races happening, and it's important, we believe, that voters here in North Central Massachusetts and across the state get to know these candidates so they can make informed decisions.
Leanne, I wanted to ask you, we know Roy's interest in this, being the president and CEO of the Chamber. How do you get involved in Elect North Central?
Well, first of all, because I am engaged with all of the chambers, and the North Central Chamber has been centrally important to the development of our work at Mount Wachusett Community College. Personally, I have a background. I worked for the Congress myself and for the State Senate, so I have a natural interest in it. But more so than anything else, I've got to say that there is something different about this region. I think, both Roy and I weren't born here. We didn't grow up here. But I will tell you, having worked in the Midwest, in other cities in the Northeast, what I've noticed about North Central Massachusetts is that if there's an issue at the college and I need help from the superintendent of schools in Fitchburg, Bob Jokolo picks up the phone. If I have an issue with a student who's having trouble and we call Coriang at the United Way, he picks up the phone. If you call a colleague at Fitchburg State, they're there. And I think part of it is because North Central Mass realized in order to be strong and healthy, we need to create our own power network among ourselves. And I have seen leadership at all of those institutions that Roy talked about, whether it's business leaders in banking and whether it's business leaders in education, or our leaders in nonprofits at organizations like Mock and Luck, and the healthcare industry. They are all there and at the table when there is a regional challenge to be met. So for me, Elect North Central was just another extension of what I think already exists here. The leaders in this region reach out to each other and have created their own network, to buffer and strengthen the region.
Now, if we have someone watching that is interested in becoming a member of the coalition, how do they go about doing that?
I would say reach out to Leanne, who's chair of the Elect North Central Coalition, or reach out to myself at the Chamber. And I serve as vice chair of the coalition, and we're happy to discuss whether or not it makes sense to have them. We're a very inclusive organization, so we welcome different organizations to be involved in the coalition. We just ask that they be regionally focused, and the group decides on who. So the group ultimately has to vote on who, whether or not to allow an organization to join the coalition.
Elect North Central. It's an interesting concept. It's been around for a while pre-pandemic, but we're kind of getting back into it now that things are changing for us in a positive way, and we want to thank you both for getting us up to speed and keeping us informed. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
This is great.